Hello, everyone. Good evening. Can anyone hear me? Hello, if you can hear me, please signify. Okay, so hello, everyone. Let's wait for more people to join. Then we can start the meeting. So let's wait for about 3 minutes for more people to join. So I will just start sharing my screen so people know the class is active. Okay, so for those of you who cannot hear anything, because the meeting has not yet started, so we want more people to join. Yeah, I can see the chats. I'm waiting for more people to join. We are just about 62, and I reckon we used to have about 100 people on the call. Okay, so I believe we can all start now. So hello everyone, welcome to today's office hours. I trust we are all doing great. And as usual, we'll be covering all things Python. So as a continuation from where we stopped yesterday, I promised we were going to look into for loops and while loops. Can everyone hear me, please? If you can hear me, please just signify in the chat section. Can anyone hear me, please? Okay, awesome. Okay, so I will be switching over to my Visual Studio Code. So I believe everyone has gotten a hold of the videos that were supposed to be used this week. So this session today is going to be for an hour. So we have till 6 o'clock. So we would have to be very fast. So if you have questions, you can just quickly start putting them in this chat section and I will look into it. So I'll be sharing my VS Code. So I believe everyone can see my VS Code. Yes, I believe everyone should be able to see my VS Code. So this was where we stopped yesterday. So as a recap, what we did was we looked at variable naming, we looked at lists, we looked at for loops. We also looked at the if statements, although we didn't look at these things in depth. That is why we have the resources for you to watch and understand at your own pace. So I would just be going over while loops now. Then if we have enough time, because we still have to take questions which are the most important or which is the most important for this office hours. So if we have enough time, we'll go in depth into most of these concepts. So we'll be looking at while loops. So like the for loop, the while loop is also used for iteration. So you use the while loop to iterate over a given set of data or to have numbers of iterations. But the difference between a for loop and a while loop is that you use a while loop when a certain condition is met. So a while loop is often used when you do not know the number of iterations you are supposed to have. So like a for loop, we can easily just iterate over a range of numbers. So if I want to have like 10 iterations, I can easily just loop 10 times. But a while loop is not like that. So I'll be demonstrating that now. So let's have a simple counter from 1 to 10. Let's just have a simple counter. So what it does is the counter just counts or adds like numbers from 1 to 10. So let's say our counter is equals to 0. Yeah. So what we need to do is, so with every loop, you always have to start with like the keyword, the reserved keyword. So with for loop you use for, and with while loop you use while. So while counter is less than 10, now counter plus or equals to 1. Now let's print counter. So I would explain index what this is. So before I bring counter here, let's see what counter is before it's iterates. So I'll explain what this line of code does and what this line of code does. And so let's see what the output would be. Oh, it says counter is not defined. Okay, no, this should be a code runner error. So I'm just going to exit my terminal and run it again. Counter is not defined. Okay. Yeah, like I said, it was a code runner error. So what I just did was I just ran it. So when I click run code, it was giving me that error. So I just had to use run code in terminal. Then, so now, okay, so I am just going to do this because we are getting multiple outputs here. Okay. So someone said something that they see. Okay, so I have a question regarding the Python app. The one I was able to download was last updated on January 24th. It's okay. Yes, okay, as long as you can run Python on it, it's fine. Okay, so now this is okay. Someone said something now that on VS Code, they see PowerShell and not terminal. Now that is very easy because you just have to change it from, I think it's from here. So you see this button here, this plus button, and this arrow down button. You just come here and you see the different types of terminal you can have. So you see PowerShell, Git bash. Okay, for me, I have Git installed. So there's a tool called Git. So if you have Git installed, you should have Git bash, but I don't think everyone would have this. I'm not sure. So you see command prompt, Ubuntu, and the others. So I have this is command prompt. So just click on command prompt. So this is it. Yeah, so I would just advise you to change it to CMD. Don't use PowerShell. And it's not like there's anything bad if you use PowerShell, but you can just leave it as command prompt because it's better using command prompt for now. So just come here and change it to command prompt. Okay, what is iteration? So I think we went over this. So iteration is just going over a certain data. So it's like looping through a certain number of data, or looping through or going through. Iteration is like an English word that means going over something, over and over again. So is there any other? Okay, no, there's no other question. Okay, someone asked if I can make a quick run through setting Python on VS Code. So I believe there's a tutorial on that on the YouTube. It's part of the resources because I remember, so someone brought this to my attention yesterday that you needed to download a Python extension for VS Code. And I'm just going to say I honestly cannot remember if you will have to download a Python extension for VS Code because it's been long I actually set up a Python for VS Code from scratch. I've always had I've installed VS Code for years now, so I can't remember how you do it again. But I don't think you would need an extension for it. Let me check. I don't think I've downloaded Python. Okay, so yes, I think you would need. Okay, so On VS Code, you come to this extensions tab and click on Python. So for me, I already have it installed. So you just click on install. You just click on, sorry, I was reading the chat, the messages on the chat section. So you just click on install, and once you install it, always restart your VS Code. Then you should have Python installed on your VS Code. So I think that's about that. So let's go over the code again. So I believe we all remember what this F string is from yesterday's class. So counter before increments. So this. Then counter after increments. Let's just copy and paste. So I would show you what happens after increments. So let's rerun this. So now, as you see, we have counter before increments is 0. Then after increments is 1. Now, before increments is 1. So I would explain what is happening now. So we have a variable called counter, and we set counter to be equal to 0. So the very idea of this code is we want to make this counter, we want to add it from 0 to 10. So we want to add 0 plus 1, then 1 plus 2, 1 plus 1 rather, 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4 plus 1 till it gets to 10. So yeah, so now the condition here says while counter is less than 10. Now, like I said, you use a while loop. A while loop executes once the condition is true. So a while loop checks for a condition before it runs. You must always set a condition for a while loop to run, and a while loop will always run if a condition is true. So counter here is 0. Yes. So is 0 less than 10? Remember, a variable is just a placeholder. So here is like saying 0 because it's just a variable, it's a placeholder. So is 0 while 0 is less than 10. So you should check for the condition. While counter is less than 10. So you should check, is counter actually less than 10? So to check the value of counter, okay, counter is 0 and 0 is less than 10. So it will execute the block of code inside this while loop. So now we are saying we should print the value of counter before increments. So it's printing the value before increments, which is 0. Now we are saying counter plus or equals to 1. Now let me rewrite this block of code. So this is the same thing as counter equals to counter plus 1. This line of code is still the same thing as this. So we are saying, okay, since we already have counter, which is equal to 0, now I want to have the previous value of counter, and I want to increment it by 1. So I want to add 1 to it. So counter is 0, 0 plus 1 equals 1. Now this is not like in-depth math or something. It's just like a normal arithmetic. So 0 plus 1 is 1, and so it adds down 1 to the value of counter here. So it comes to this line of code and prints counter. So it's a counter after increment, and since counter is already 1, it will print 1. That is why this place says 1. Now, if you notice, Python runs code line by line. And that is because Python is an interpreted language. So our compiler it does not run the whole code. So if if there is an error here, so let's say there's an error on 9. Let's have an error that says print counts. Oh, sorry, counts. Now we'll get an error that says counts is not defined, and it will show us VS Code, or our compiler will show us the very line where we have that error. So it says we have an error on line 6. So we have an error on line 6. So everything after line 6 will not run. So once you have an error or a bug, everything after that error in Python will not run. So the code fails to execute when an error is met or when the bug is encountered. So here, this is still the same thing as this. So now it prints 1. Let me just rerun this. So we get like, so now it prints 1. Now, okay, so I failed to mention, so in Python, there we have what we call comments. Yeah, we have what we call comments. So a commented code is one that will not run. So we use comments to state things in our code. So if I am writing a code and I want someone else to work on that code and I want someone to take note of something, I can have a code comment that says, just a comment, just a comment or something. So you can write whatever it is you want and it will not run that code, because the fact that Python sees this hash symbol, it knows that it is a comment. So you specify a comment using a hash symbol. So you can just comment a line of code you don't need or you don't want again in your code. So now let's go back to understanding the code again. So after the first iteration, remember, we are not setting a given number of iterations. We want to iterate until a condition stops being met. Okay, it looks like a lot of people can. Sorry, I have to stop and take some questions. Okay, so this one says, okay, yes, it's okay to use PyCharm. I think I've been saying this since on Tuesday. It's okay to use PyCharm. You can use PyCharm as long as it runs your Python code. I've downloaded Python on PC, but anytime I try to launch it, it will be taken to installing stage. I don't think I understand that. Sorry, please. If you can retype your question. I don't think I understand that your question. Sorry. So it says, can we also use counter plus plus instead of counter plus or equals 1? Now, okay, so let me show you something about Python. Let's try. You should be able to use counter plus plus here, but let me show you why. Now, Python does not allow you use counter plus plus or plus plus counter. I believe you're asking this probably because you've seen it being written in another programming language, or you read a book and you probably saw that. Python does not actually allow you use this increment operator. In JavaScript, you can use this. In JavaScript, in Java, and in other languages, you can use this and this. But in Python, you cannot use this. So take notes, you cannot use this in Python. Okay, so okay, so the last answer is 10. Isn't that less than 10? How come it still prints 10? So we are getting to that part I would explain now. So in the print counter before increments, why are you always adding F in your prints? Okay, So I explained this yesterday. So the F is a string formatter. It is saying that we want everything, in case you encounter a variable inside this string, format the variable into a string. Counter here is a variable here. So, without this, it is just a simple string. This is just a simple string like this. So if I put counter here, if I put counter here, now counter is just a string. It is no longer. So if I run this line of code, the same counter is not defined. This is why sometimes code runner just misbehaves. Oh, okay. Then one other thing, please. Always remember to save your Python code before you run it. Always remember to save it. Now, someone just asked the question that they don't see anything in their code run anytime they run their code. That's probably because you don't save your Python code or you didn't save your Python code. The reason why I save mine, I put mine on autosave. So there is, you see, there is where is that option? So there's an option, okay, see, autosave. So I put mine on autosave. So let me just take it off autosave. So I've taken it off autosave. So you should always save your Python code anytime. So if you notice, this stops being, it stops, you can see that we have like a circle. Now it shows that our Python code is not saved. So when I hit Control S, it saves. So please always remember to save your Python code. So I think I'll take it off from autosave now as we continue the lesson. So as I was explaining, counter before increments, you see it says counter before increments, counter. It is not actually printing out the value of counter to the console, so our terminal. And that is why I use the F string. The F string is just to make sure that anytime it encounters a variable, it formats that variable into a string. So the F string ensures that anything we use in our, now we can also rewrite this. Let's say, is it always a must to use an F string? No, we can always rewrite this as comma counter and it will work. Let's rerun it. So can you see? Counter before increment. Let's do this. So there's no extra space. So can you see counter before increment 0 counter? So it works when I do this. You can also use the plus, I guess. Yeah, in Python, you can always use the plus. Okay, no. No, it's only in languages like JavaScript and Java that you can use plus. So yes. But I personally love using F strings. So okay. So is there any other question before we continue? This quarter is not related. Can I change my course? So I can't. I don't think I understand what you mean by this quarter. No, you can't download VS Code on Android. Android have interpreters or compilers for Android. So like you can use PyDroid 3. Yeah, I think that's like one of the most popular Android Python emulators out there. Sorry, can everyone see my screen? Someone says my screen is blurry. Yeah, so I'm coming to the part where it says 10. I would explain that now. But sorry, can everyone see my screen? Someone said they can't see my screen, that it's blurry. If you cannot see my screen, please. Okay, you can see clearly. Okay, okay, okay. I just needed to make sure so everyone follows. Okay, okay, awesome. So now so now someone asked that we can see counter, it's showing 10, but the condition says less than 10. Okay. Now, so let's walk through the iteration again so that everyone understands. So let's see what happens. Let's walk through the iteration. So after the first iteration, yeah, counter is 1. Counter is 1. So it comes here. After the second iteration, counter is 2. So instead of this, let me take out this. Let's have only counter after increments. So after the first iteration, counter is 1. After the second one, so let's say it gets to this one. So I need to have a way for us to keep track of each um count variable, each count item rather. So counter is 0, yeah, and it adds 0 plus 1. So counter after the first iteration, let's have it here. Let's say this after first iteration, counter is 1. Now it comes there and it adds another 1, yeah, and counter becomes 2. Now counter, let's say counter gets to 9 and it gets to this condition. Is 9 less than 10? Yes, obviously. 9 is less than 10. So it comes here and it still runs and increments counter. So as long as the previous one here, at the point of checking the condition, it returns true, it will always run this block of code. So it is not running it because counter is already 10 while it checks for this condition. At the point of checking for this condition, counter is 9. So when it comes here, it checks for counter. So it will now check as counter is less than 10. Yes, counter is 9 at that point. So it increments and counter is already 10. And it prints counter after increments 10. So at the point where it tries to run this block of code, it checks this condition again and says, oh, hey, is counter less than 10? Oh, no, counter is not less than 10 because counter is 10. That means counter is equal to 10. So with this block of code run, no, that is why we don't have a counter that is 11. I hope you understand. Hello, is anyone following me? I hope it is clear. Someone who asked that question, I think it was CJ. Oh, okay. Hello. I hope it is clear. I hope. Okay, yes, yes. I hope. Yes, okay, so awesome. So now you can see the difference between the for loop and the while loop. Now we are looping through until a condition is met. So now let's say we want to increment okay, so let's say we want to have we want to add an item till it gets to 10. So let's say we want to know now we are adding 0 plus 1, 1 plus 1, 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, and the rest. So let's say we want to add everything. So from 0 plus 1, 1 plus 2, 2 plus 3, 3 plus 4, 4 plus 5, and so on. How would we do it? So we need, so let's call this one sum. And let's call this one counter. So we need a way to keep track of what we are adding. Okay, so sum of numbers. Now, the reason why I changed is from sum to sum of numbers is because if you notice, when I wrote sum, it was purple. So VS Code shows you the names that are reserved, the variables that are reserved that you cannot use. So they are called reserved keywords, like I explained yesterday. So sum is one of them. So sum is a function that allows us add numbers. So you can't use reserved keywords as variable names. So now let's say we want to add numbers from 1 to 10 or from 0 to 10. So now we need a way for us to have to keep track of the counter, the counts, and also the numbers that we want to add. So like a placeholder to store the numbers we are adding. So while counter is less than 10. So sum of numbers less or equals to 1. Yeah. Now, I want to show you two things here. But okay, I think I should. Okay, before we get to this example, I want to show you something. So before you get to this example, so let's take this out. So what happens when we run a code and the code still, like, the condition is always true? What happens when the condition is always true? Now, in Python, we have what we call, or in programming in general, we have what we call infinite loops. Now, infinite loops would always run. They are loops that they will never stop because the condition is being met. The condition is always met. So you need a way to always break out of a loop for it to run and for it to stop. So an infinite loop will always run. Like, it's a loop that would always continue being iterated. So let's say this would always give us an infinite loop. So I'll just demonstrate this real quick. So can you see my terminal is still running? My terminal is still running. It's still running, and it is not stopping. So if I don't stop it, it will mess my RAM up. Because, so if you notice, let me show you my terminal. It's still running. Now that is because the condition was always true. So Python our code did not break out of the loop. So this is like an example of an infinite loop, and your while loop will always run if there is no place that returns false in your code. So now in hindsight, yeah, this is always like while true. What just happened? I would explain what this block of code I am writing is. So now, like I mentioned yesterday, we have different data types here, and Boolean is also a data type. So Boolean is literally just true and false. That is Boolean, true and false. That is the data type. So we have a Boolean, so true and false. Truth values is always equal to 1, and false values are always 0, or is always 0. So this line of code here denotes an infinite loop. Yeah, so this would always it does not denote an infinite loop like that. It will always cause an infinite loop unless something is making it break out of the loop. So I will show you how to break out of an infinite loop now. So while true, print counter. Now let's run this code and you see that same thing that happened will happen. It's still happening. So you break out of your loop in your terminal by using Control C. So I use Control C to break out of the loop. Now, let's say I have a condition. Let's say so let's increment counter plus or equals 1 print counter. So just to show that this actually works, but it is still an infinite loop. This works, but it's still an infinite loop. I'm going to show you the terminal. So can you see? So it keeps adding numbers. So this will keep adding numbers until you break out of the loop. So this will keep adding numbers from 0 to. So now what happens if we have something like this and we need to break out of our loop? So now, okay, so now this is a great way to show the difference between a for loop and a while loop. If you notice now, a for loop, we have to specify. We can't really have this in a for loop because in a for loop, we need to specify the number of times we want to iterate. So like I demonstrated yesterday, if we want to iterate over like an array or we want to iterate 10 times, you have to use for I in range. You have to specify the range. So in range 10, in range 15, in range 20, in range 1000 and all. But this can go as long as you like, as long as the condition is true. So this is a great difference between a for loop and a while loop. So let's just continue. If counter is less than 100. So let's say counter is 99, yeah? Break. So I use this keyword break. Let's see if it works. Oh, okay. Looks like someone asked the question. Sorry if I didn't look at the question here. Okay, so is there a reason for the underscore between the words? Okay, that is actually a very great observation. So generally, we have what we call naming conventions. Each language uses a naming convention. So this convention where we use the underscore is called a snake casing. So it is called a snake. Let me see if I can show you on Google. So you can quickly can you see my Google Chrome? Okay, no, I don't think you can. So I'm just going to stop share and reshare. Screen one. Okay. So I hope you can see my Google Chrome. So we have snake casing, like I said, and we have snake casing, we have camel casing, we have different types of them. So snake casing. So if you see, snake casing refers to the style of writing in which space is replaced by an underscore character, and the first letter of each word is written in lowercase. It is commonly used naming convention in computing. For example, for variable and subroutine names and for file names, blah, blah, blah. So it's a naming convention, and Python uses snake casing. So where you would have a space in between each character, you should always use an underscore. So we have camel casing. Camel casing is used by JavaScript. So camel casing uses an uppercase letter. So you can just read this up on your own. So this is case. If you notice, this is case snake casing, and this is camel casing. So it's a variable naming convention. So I believe I've answered that. Someone says if we remain the counter after implements another thing, will the code still work? Yes, it will work. It's just a variable as long as you change the variable accordingly in your code. Okay, so we have different, okay. Okay, so sorry, someone said it's not clear. Please, what is not clear? Can you specify in the chat so we'll go over it? So now I was trying to show how we can break out of a loop. Yeah, how we can break out of an infinite loop. So since we don't know how many times this code is going to be iterating, this condition says that if our counter is less than, okay, no, I want to use because this will always, okay, let's say if counter equals 100, break, yes. Let's do this. If counter equals 100, break. So let's save and run. So as you can see, we have counter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 99. Now, interesting question. Why did this counter not print out 100? It stopped at 99. But here we say counter equals 100. And here is printing counter after increments is 99. Do I have to explain that, or is it clear? Okay. Okay, I think there is like, okay. So someone asked the question. Sorry, we'll come back to the code. So someone asked the question that says, on the resources on LMS, it says we can use a plus sign in Python, but now you said we can't. Can you elaborate? I didn't really say we can't use a plus sign. I am using a plus sign here on line 5. I said you can't use this sign, count this double plus sign here. This double plus sign here, not the plus sign itself. If plus sign is an operator that can be used for addition, or that is used for addition. Okay, so okay, so now the reason why it didn't print out 100 is because we are breaking out of the loop here on line 7. So we didn't give our code a chance to get to line 8. So the break statement is used to go out of or leave an infinite loop or break out of a code statement, not just an infinite loop, to break out of a loop in general. So you can use it to break out of a loop. So I could be looping 200 times and I get to this condition and I decide to break. So you can use the break statement anywhere to break out of a code or to branch out of a code. Now we also have a statement that is continue. So I'm just going to demonstrate both of them. So if counter equals 0, if counter equals 100. So let's say if counter equals 100, continue, else if elif rather, LC. Counter equals 150. Break else I doubt it will get here. So now let me explain what this line of code here does and what this one does. So the continue statement is used to skip. So let's say we are writing a code and really don't want anything to happen at that point in time. We just want to skip that iteration and go over to the next iteration. We just want to skip. This is what we use. We use the continue keyword. So if counter equals 100, yeah, it will skip. It will not bother getting to line 12. This line 12 that says print after increment. It will just keep this and start another iteration. But now, if counter has passed 100, yeah, if counter gets to 150, then it will break out of the loop. Now, for those who have not seen this statement here, elif. So yesterday we talked about, or I looked into the if-else statements. I said the if checks for a condition, and if that condition is true, it executes the block of code inside that condition. But if it is false, it executes what is inside the else statement. Now, the elif too is also called an else if statement. So an else if statement also checks for a condition. So when you specify an if statement and you specify an elif statement, once your if statement is false, it checks for the condition in your else if statement. So as long as the condition in your else if statement is true, then it will run what is inside the else if statement. The only time it will not run what is inside the else if statement is when your else if statement is false. Then it will execute what is inside the else statement, else block of code rather. So if this is true, it will execute this. But if this is false, it will come here and check for this condition. If this is true, it will execute this. But if this is false, if this else is false, it will come to our else statement here and execute what is inside our else statement. So we can have multiple elif statements. So I can have another elif statement that says if counter equals 180, break. But instead of that, we want to print the else if statement is working. Okay. So now let's run this code and see what happens. Now let's see what happens. So it prints counter after increments. It keeps printing counter after increments. So now, okay, now this is a great way to, okay, so now before it printed counter after increments, it pretend I doubt it will get here. I don't know why I was trying. Okay, I wanted to say I doubt it will get here, but yeah, it prints this block of code. Now that is because, as you might have guessed, counter is not yet equals to 100. So this will return, this is false, this is false, this is false, and it will always execute this block of code here. So counter after increments 1 to, let's say 99. Let's see what happens when it gets to 99. So now we have 99 and we have 101. We have 99 and we have 101. We don't have 100. That is because when we got here, if counter equals 100, we use the keyword continue. So it skipped everything in this loop. It skipped every other thing in this loop. It didn't even print counter after increment. It just skips it. So when it got here on line 7, it just went back to line 4 to start running it again. So it ignored everything after line 7, and that is how to use the continue. So the continue statement just keeps an iteration. It does not run any block of code after that continue keyword. So it skips that and it started again. So let's see what happens when counter equals 150. So it keeps printing 1 to 1 to 150. So 149, now 150. So elif counter is 150. It prints out the else if statement is working. So the else if statement is working. And because we don't have a continue statement here, obviously, this line 14 would run. Now, let's see what happens when we get to 180, or actually 179. So 179 is adds, okay, so let's say 179, it increments by 1 again, which is 180. It comes to line 10 and checks, oh, okay, before it gets to line 10, it comes to line 6. If is counter is counter equals 100? No, counter is greater than 100. Is counter equals 150? No, counter is 179, which is greater than 150. And it's 180 rather, because it has already incremented. So is counter equals 180? Yes. So it breaks out of this loop and nothing else executes after this. So that is just like an overview of using while loop. So I hope everyone understands. I try to make it as easy as possible. Oh wow, we have lots of questions. Python, okay, someone says, which means 0 to 99 makes 100 count. Yes, okay. Okay, I explained this yesterday. Sorry if I didn't explain it today. I explained this yesterday. So I said our index starts from 0 in Python. So I think you should check for yesterday's link. The class should still be working. If you have yesterday's link, you can just go through the class and see where I explained that. Why are we using double equals to inline six? Okay, so the difference between this and this is because this is called an assignment operator. Oh, this is called an assignment operator. You are assigning 0 to counter. You are assigning a value to a variable. It's an assignment operator. This checks for a condition. So this is a conditional operator. I think that's what they call it, conditional operator. So it checks if it checks for a given condition. So this is an assignment. So this checks if this is equal to, so it checks if two values are equal to each other. But this is an assignment operator, and this checks if two values are like if two values are equal to each other. Someone said concatenation is possible in printing of strings. Yes. So is there any other question? I think, is there any other question? I believe it is clear. I like to think it is. So we are way past time. We are actually way past time. So I think that will be all for today. I hope you enjoyed the class as much as I did. I really did enjoy the class. It was fun. as usual, and it was interactive. I got to answer some questions and still teach new things. So like I would love, okay, so I think I have a message. Oh, okay, so we'll be ending here. Thank you all for joining, and we hope to do this next week. Have a wonderful day ahead, or a wonderful night. And we see you next week, Tuesday. Bye.